Every time a gun is fired, there is one key piece of evidence that could help police identify the shooter.
Every gun, when it's fired, leaves a signature mark on the shell casing. If you're a fan of TV crime shows, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But you might not know there's a national database of those marks, and it's that's helping Detroit police make arrests. Let's bring in Sean Lay for more on how this is getting results, Sean.
Getting results, and for anyone that's really concerned about gun violence right here on our Detroit streets. The feds, they're using this tool, they're getting convictions in federal court. What it's doing is helping investigators find an illegal gun and then find the person who is using that gun in an illegal way.
The feds call Keontae Province a serial shooter opening fire on Detroit streets. In the spring of 2018, police are called to a report of shots fired on San Juan in Detroit. A .40 caliber casing is recovered by investigators. Province was eventually identified as the possible shooter, but there wasn't enough evidence to charge him. Months later, shots are fired again. Police point to Province as the suspected shooter. DPD interviews him, and in court documents, Province allegedly admitted to shooting a Glock .40 caliber firearm. Shell casings from both shootings were then entered into a national database. The result, those shots were fired from the same gun. That database is called the National Integrated Ballistics Information Network. If shooters like Keontae Province haven't heard of it, they will soon.
Essentially what NIBIN does is it puts investigators together to allow them to do good old-fashioned police work in connecting the dots between seemingly unrelated events that are actually related.
It means the feds are tracing the shell casings, leading them back to the gun. They can see if that gun was used in other crimes. In Province's case, the feds linked the shell casings to the same gun. Then they checked his social media posts of Province posing with the Glock .40 caliber. They could even see the gun's serial number, posing while smoking what the feds believe was dope. All of it adding up to a federal charge of having drugs with a firearm while under indictment.
Well, the big thing is the gun that doesn't lie. And that's the whole premise on NIBIN, is that at the end of the day, we are following the gun. We're not following the individual that's possessing the gun. We are following that gun and that gun's involvement in violent crime.
Now Detroit police, they've jumped in, taking a big role in finding shell casings at scenes, recovering guns off the streets, using the NIBIN database to track that gun, leading to the people using the gun. The U.S. Attorney says the information they get from NIBIN is a big key to making our streets safer.
If we find a person today with a gun that is traced through NIBIN, and we can trace that through shootings or even murders, we know that that is a bad actor, that person needs to be off the street and in prison. If we didn't have that evidence, we might not have the full picture of just how dangerous that person is.
Bottom line is we're preventing the next victim. Bottom line is we are identifying shooters and getting them before they commit another horrible act that could ultimately end in somebody being killed needlessly on the streets of Detroit.
We're live tonight. Did you pick up what the man from the head of the ATF here locally said? They are trying to prevent the next shooting, the next loved one being gunned down on a city street here tonight and in the future. So the feds and now local police departments truly believe using this tool, it's called NIBIN, can help get guns off the street to make streets safer. A big investigative tool here, Jason, back to you.
Huge, and you would think, especially with what we saw on New Year's, this database made a splash that night.
Well, the world saw that video of the celebratory gunfire on the west side. Every single shell casing, more than 400 of them, it was collected by the ATF. They are testing them now to get them back to see if they can find those guns they believe are being used in gang activity.
Boy, incredible if that's how it's going to happen for sure. All right, Sean, thanks. And now here's a look at what we're working out for tomorrow at 5.